I have in front of me, which the dates are.
Yep.
So pursuant to recently adopted amendments of the Illinois Open Meetings Act included in Public Act 101-0640, public bodies may, in certain circumstances, hold entirely virtual public meetings without a quorum physically present in any one location. Governor Pritzker's Executive Order 2022-01 has extended this provision through June of 22. As chair of the Council for Inclusion and Community, I have made the determination that it is not practical nor prudent to meet in person at this time. Accordingly, this meeting of the Council for Inclusion and Community is being conducted virtually with members participating through the Zoom webinar platform. Assistant Village Manager Sharon Tanner is in the Village Hall conference room as required by the Open Meetings Act.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So then I will call us to order and start the roll call with the hope that Raphael rolls in just as we're finishing up.
Okay.
So if Sharon, if you'll call the roll in alphabetical order by last name.
Sure. Co-chair Guzman, co-chair Scott.
Here.
Member Bjork. Member Evans. Member Flanagan.
Here.
Member Kirk McKenzie.
Here.
Member Molly.
Here.
Member Moses.
Here.
Member Mizell.
Here.
Member Robbins. Member Rubin.
Here.
And Member Young.
Here.
Okay.
All right, thanks all. Next up, the approval of our May meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the May meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
I second it.
Thank you. Sharon, will you call the roll?
Sure, one moment. Okay. Let's see. Co-chair Scott.
Yes.
Let's see, I'm going to list of people who are here. Member Flanagan.
Yes.
Member Kirk McKenzie.
Yes.
Member Molly. Member Moses.
Yes.
Member Mizell.
Yeah.
Member Rubin. And member-
Yes.
Okay. All right, motion carries.
Thank you. Next, public comment. This is the time in the meeting when a member of the public may comment on something that is not on the agenda. I'll ask Sharon to read any public comments that were submitted prior to the meeting. After that, I will ask if any members of the public would like to comment on something that is not on the agenda. If you would like to make a comment about something that is listed on the agenda, please hold your comment until that time. If a member of the public would like to make a comment now on something that is not on the agenda, please press the raise hand button on your computer, or if you are joining this meeting online, or *9 if you are joining by phone. The village's public comment rules limit comments to 3 minutes. Sharon, do we have any comments?
We do not.
Anyone present in the?
Nope.
Okay. Great. Thank you. I wish Raphael were here. We're gonna just keep it moving. Our next item on the agenda are updates on council activities and initiatives. And we're gonna actually move the discussion of the logo design to the top here because we have Sammy from the village here kind of on borrowed time after hours so that she can speak to sort of the process and any questions that we may have. So you all were sent the proposed logo designs in the packet with Sharon, and these are drafts. There are 2 versions, one with 3 busts, one with 4 busts. And then they have text and bubbles to sort of signal open dialogue. The text in the bubbles is open for discussion. Sharon's going to share it. There you go. Thank you. That's for now, it's just filler. So it could say anything. And I spoke with Raphael earlier today, who had a really thoughtful idea that it might be nice to just have hello in different languages. So Vivek, I know that I feel like everyone gets tired of hearing me speak. So with conscious of the fact that Emily is not here because she's ill, Amy and Vivek were other really active participants in this process. Do you guys want to jump in and offer sort of your thoughts about the process, how we came here, what we're trying to accomplish, and then maybe solicit any feedback?
Sure, I can.
Thank you.
I think when I know you have option 1A up here, and that's one I really liked. So in the process, we worked with the village and we worked with Sharon, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head right now. I'm so sorry. Yeah, and she presented us with a bunch of options, that she drafted, and we spent some time talking about what we liked and what we didn't like about each of the drafts. And she took that information back and came up with, I think, 3 or 4 of these, right?
We narrowed it down to 2.
Right. So of the, I think there were a few, but no, these are the 2. If you go back up to 1A, that's the one I really like it. And, the silhouettes, the color scheme of the village, and a message. And I think, Hillary, you said that, those bubbles can be filled in with whatever we want them to fill in. I honestly think that they may be placeholders when she drafted this, but that was the intent, to kind of communicate the message in this logo form, without making it too complicated, without making it too busy. And I'll stop for a second to see if Amy wants to chime in and say anything, if I missed anything.
So I guess not so much commenting on which I like or whatever, but yeah, I think you described the process well. I mean, trying to cover maybe a lot of bases if you think of it, making sure that it looked as broad in terms of the people and the kind of, if you will, the faces and the kind of people that we want to be sure hear the voice of inclusion message. And so to keep it as I guess silhouette-like and not have to get too much into it, make sure you covered every single base, but imply that. I, for one, the thing that I keep yearning for is picturing it as a logo. I wish somehow the people were a little closer together so that it didn't look as broad. I think it's just, kind of rectangular, doesn't quite grab me in that way, but I think using the colors of the village and, welcome some feedback about, do we kind of show enough diversity in a way with the 3 figures we have? It's, kind of imply a certain amount with some of them. I'm not sure we have got enough, but that's all I would add.
One thing I'll add to the background discussion is that the subcommittee that was working on this gave a lot of thought to how can the logo represent the work of the council. And so what they focused in on was people being at the heart of it, and conversation. And so as we worked through and looked at the many different options, and Sammy prepared probably over a dozen different options initially for the initial brainstorm, the group really coalesced around images that are people-centric and conversation-centric. One thing that we try to keep in mind in talking this through is thinking about different applications for a logo, something that's small, say like if it were to be like the pocket area of a t-shirt, that's a small application compared to say the front or the back of a t-shirt, which is much larger. And so you can see a lot more detail in a large application, less detail in a small application. And so we tried to keep it recognizable, but not so granular in the level of detail that it's not identifiable in a small application. I'll toggle over, because I've had my screen shared on the 3 silhouette image. I'll toggle over to the 4 silhouette image too. This was just another option too.
And I'm noting that Gary
Well,
has
you-
raised his hand. Yeah, go ahead.
So, I'm certainly no artist. I like them both, but I think as a practical matter, the first one with the 3 silhouettes instead of the 4 works potentially better because if you go back to the 4 for a moment, please. Thank you. One on the far right saying, welcome. I think as you put this out on certain kinds of things, certain kinds of materials or whatever, I think that person on the right, the silhouette on the right, is going to get washed out. And I'm not even sure it's going to become so light as to not be visible.
And if you do like the 3-person option, these are drafts, we can finesse the gradient colors of blue. So that way it doesn't, and it may be that the colors get finessed too, depending on the application. So if it's on something like a piece of paper, a color may not print as well versus like a navy blue shirt, for example, then we might swap a color for that application to just, so that way something didn't get lost.
There was a really intentional effort to kind of work within the village's logo, just so for consistency, so that we're communicating that we're a committee of the village board. We're not our own entity. And I think the other thing, just for way of background, Sharon, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the busts are not interchangeable. We can swap out busts, is that right? If we wanted a different combination, if you went back to the 3 that people seem to gravitate towards so far, maybe we don't, it's just up for discussion if we wanted to cherry pick some of the other bust options, silhouette options. I think we were able to do that. Am I right about that, Sammy and Sharon?
Yes.
Okay.
And I should mention too, Sammy, as Hillary mentioned, did take some to join us. Excuse me. So she can also answer more questions. I see, Patrice, your hand is up. I don't want to talk over you.
Thank you. No, so I was going to say that I agree. I like option 1. I think that it is cleaner. I think it is easier to read. I think if you have the 4 persons and have 4 bubbles, it's a little bit busy, so you can become a bit distracted. You actually just answered the question that I was getting ready to raise. I wondered if there was an option to change out the bust images. I challenge if I see enough diversity in just the silhouette. So that's why I was going to ask if maybe, depending on what, with the event, the occasion that we're using this for, if there's an opportunity to use some different silhouettes based on what we're, looking to communicate. But I think this overall communication of we see a group, it looks like they're in, conversation together, and I see some diversity, but I think that there could be just a little bit more, even maybe in some of hair, other shapes that could, bring about some diversity that's a little bit more representative of the total community.
Mm-hmm. What Sammy and I can do is we can share a few more by email. Some of them translate pretty well into here. Some of them start to look less like a person. As a person with curly hair, I was all excited when I saw one with curly hair until we made it just solid blue, and then it kind of looked like a tree on a hill. So I was a little sad about that myself because I was excited to see a curly haired person. But we can certainly send a few more. And if there are other ones that you like, we're certainly not, tied to these. There are a number that are available to us that we can choose from.
And I just want to drill down on something that Catrice said. I think what I heard you saying is there an option to sort of modify as the occasion sort of suggests? Like, are you saying like if it were Pride Month, like maybe one of them would have a flag? Or I help me understand a little bit better where you're going with that, because I think I like it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the interesting thing, you brought up Pride Month, so I see where we're going with the colors and sticking with the Village's logo, and I think that is smart and key to our branding. And we want to continue to communicate our branding with consistency. But, you know, you brought up Pride. Could there be an example that we use our logo and we put these, you know, in rainbow colors versus the, you know, gradient shades of blue? I, like you, when I saw the one with the four, the curly hair one was it was wavy. It was a little, I couldn't tell if I was seeing a Scooby-Doo character or not, but as I think about that, you know, could there be one with a more distinctive curly? Could there be more distinctive afro, you know, depending on what the occasion? If we were doing something for Women's History Month, could we show one with the diversity that would be 3 women, but they're distinctively different? You know, those were some of the modifications that I was wondering about.
That brings up a good point. Something that Sammy had suggested to us is that for specific campaigns or activities, we could take one silhouette out of the logo, and that could be used for the marketing of a specific initiative or a specific event, if that was something that the council wanted to do. So for example, taking our person at the left, on the left here saying hello, if we wanted to use that one for our hashtag say hello Glencoe, we could take out just that one and make their bubble say just hello or something else. So we can do that pretty readily. And I think it still maintains the recognition that someone would connect it to, oh, that's part of the Council for Inclusion and Community, even though it's not all 3 silhouettes all in a row like that.
Digging that idea. And I that seems achievable to me, Sharon. I don't want to speak out of school, but I feel just as you said, that that's actually one of the great things about this design. And I'm sure that Sammy, who has you know, a lot better command of communications than I, was thinking that way and thinking about digital and everything else moving forward. But this does seem to me to be a logo that could be sort of easily manipulated while still maintaining its sort of distinct look, as long, you know, it's still saying Glencoe Council for Inclusion and Community and the bus, or sorry, I don't know why I keep calling them bus silhouettes. But maybe the verbiage in the bubbles changes, or you know, just as we discussed. So I just want to look to anyone else in the group. There's a number of folks who haven't said anything. Margot, Raphael, Anise, I know you're sort of online, offline with a kid scheduling conflict, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but Bob, anyone else have thoughts, comments, concerns?
I don't know how to do the hand raise thing from my phone, so I apologize, but it's Annie's talking. So I wonder, they're all facing forward, and I wonder if there's a way to, like, I don't know if it would be the 2 outside people turning towards the person in the middle, but somehow making it a little more like engaged and interactive. I may be overthinking it, but it just sort of looks like they're driving in a van together or something, facing forward. And I wonder if there's a way to turn them towards one another, or one of them turn towards the other. I don't know. That's one thought. And then, like, when you guys were talking about, you know, changing it, you know, to address like different themes or months, like that made me think kind of like what Google does, you know, on their pages. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. You know how they like do different themes like that. So like, I think that's a great idea. And I love the idea that it's like a living logo kind of thing, as opposed to like a frozen and carved in stone kind of thing. So that's just my 2 cents.
Denise, thank you for that. And you were echoing something that Amy had also suggested. So I want to give Sammy a chance to jump in here. Is there a scenario where, I mean, I can even see like, could we bend them sort of towards each other? Can you offer sort of any suggestions around how we might make them look a little bit less like they're, you know, driving in the van together?
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm in a car, so if it sounds a little funny, I apologize for the audio, but I can play with the dimension of it and give it a little bit more depth so it's not as flat looking, if that's what we're kind of observing, and present maybe something that's a little bit more three-dimensional, I guess I would say, if that's the direction I'm getting.
Yeah, I
It's-
think we've heard that from two. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not that it's flat, although that is a factor given what's being requested. It's that it all looks like they're forward facing. You can make three-dimensionally, you know, the picture look more three-dimensional, but if they're still all forward facing, we won't have addressed the point that we'd like them to be speaking with each other more naturally. So the two people at the sides would be angled towards each other a little more and the person in the middle.
I see. Yeah, I could look through the different silhouette options and see what would make the most sense to have them look like they're talking to each other. Some of them look like, the one in the middle to me looks like it could go either way, forwards or backwards, but I see how the other two would be
Could they be
backwards.
depicted with their hands joined?
Potentially. I'd have to play with different types of silhouettes. These were all just primarily bust and head, but I'd have to play with other silhouettes to incorporate hands.
Yeah, in
That
any
would
event,
clearly
it's
demonstrate inclusion and community.
So we've got Bob suggesting that we have more like a fuller representation of a person with hands joined. And anyone else wanting to see that? Just trying to, it's just so hard when we're in this group. So I want to make sure that everyone.
So, it's Amy, I guess, going back to the original example that I think we pulled offline just as an idea, it had people a little more to chest level, and they were kind of, as I recall, kind of arms, shoulders around one another. Like it was kind of almost slightly like a huddle type of feeling. So there's that as well. But it gave an impression of people together doing something, more engaged maybe than just kind of the sitting in the van, which is, I think, a good description of kind of the feeling. So I think just doing the best we can to be sure there's a sense of them being together rather than just happen to be straight across would be some level of kind of improvement.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do when you meet someone? You shake hands.
Not anymore.
Okay, we could
Do
do
the bump, yeah. the
want to
bump.
do a fist bump. It's cool by me too. But I think that would make it much clearer.
If there is any of this, so Sammy and I I'm taking notes as to the feedback. If there's any of this that's a design limitation, because we are using some tools that we have available to create this rather than drawing it from scratch. So if there are design limitations that we run into, that's something that I can follow up with you on for the next meeting. It would be helpful to know, and I want to be mindful, Sammy's got to leave in just a couple of minutes. So I want to be mindful of her time. Of the things that we've heard, I've heard swapping out different silhouettes. That's actually pretty easy to do. But for some of the modifications to the stance of the people or how much of the people is visible, is there anything that we've talked about that's a must-have or a nice to do if we can to help us understand your preferences as we're refining this? If we do run
I
into a time limitation.
I was just gonna say that your enthusiasm for the curly-haired person that ended up looking like a mountain, if a curly-haired person is turned sideways, there can be, you know, some defined curl.
Right.
You know, you can make more texture actually if you turn those silhouettes in terms of hair. And you know, I know that you kind of want to be vague on like physical features, but it might play to the advantage of being a little more specific around details.
Yeah, I'd personally also just like to, I'm clearly a straight haired girl, so just say this with a grain of salt. I know it's hard. Part of this is sort of intentionally vague because we want it to be representative and open to or subject to a lot of different interpretations. With that said, I don't know how it is that we have these feelings, but it's like it is clear to me that there isn't. I would like to see an afro or some more like Afrocentric hairstyle that clearly establishes that piece. I think the other things are more fungible, you know, but that to me feels important.
Absolutely.
What about what's in the bubbles, guys? Do we want to just have, is that part of the living? I love that Anise said that, the living logo, that the bubbles come and go, they don't always have to be there. I just want to make sure that we don't end up with something that has things in the bubbles that people don't like. And I'm also mindful of the fact that I'm certainly not trying to jam anything through by any stretch, but we are limited in our capacity in terms of what we can design. If we want to bring in, you know, the Sustainability Task Force brought in their own designer. If we want to go down that road, we could go down that road. But I guess part of me was hoping that we could just find a good enough option so that we can get it onto our, you know, get it out in the world with the different activities that we have planned in the months to come, specifically the 4th of July parade. So part of my concern is just wanting to find a balance around that. Sharon, you can speak more to our capabilities in terms of time and staffing and all of that, but I'm worried that the more we massage this, or this becomes the focus of our work and not our work, which is, I guess, important.
All right, hey, Vivek, you got your hand up, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, you know, and I'm going to apologize in advance, Hillary, because this goes to exactly what you were saying about making our work and trying to get something through. You know, having been on that subcommittee with Amy to start this, it just occurred to me. You have so many times, even our vehicle stickers, they did this where you have the community submit something. Is that worthwhile to do, to have the community submit what would a logo look like for our council for inclusion and community? What does that look like to our community? It's not just the 12, 13 of us, right? And I would just have us reflect on that, because we can say this is what it looks like and feels like to us, and that's fine. But in our community, who we're trying to communicate this message to, they may have a completely different interpretation, graphic interpretation of what an inclusion and, you know, Council for Inclusion and Community means. So maybe that's something. And, you know, we have a lot of events this summer. Maybe we can curate 4 one of ours that we come up with, and then a couple from the community, and then at one of these events, have people vote, and just say, hey, this is what they want to see. Again, I don't mean to blow the whole thing up, but it just occurred to me hearing everyone's discussion. I thought, well, we all have these different interests and different points of views and what we think is important and what it says to us. And that's just us. We're here to represent the community and be inclusive. If we all have this discussion, everyone else in the community may have an opinion. Granted, a lot of people won't even pay attention, but those that do have an interest may want to submit a drawing. My kid might want to submit a drawing, say, hey, this is what I think a logo would look like. And that's my 2 cents. Sorry for I didn't mean to sidetrack it, but I just became aware of that as I'm listening to this.
It's all important. I think we've got Margot and then Raphael.
Hi, guys. I wanted to speak to the contest idea because I ran the Village Vehicle Sticker Contest for a number of years for the Human Relations Forum, and it was a good project. We engaged the school kids. As the years went on, we got fewer and fewer submissions, and we got a lot of submissions that we couldn't reproduce even if we wanted to. We had some pretty strict guidelines because certain colors of ink cost more to print than others. I mean, we really had to narrow the guidelines, and we also had to have the village lawyer submitted language to use in the submission so that we had the rights to use and adjust. So it's a little bit more complicated. And it was difficult to get, at the beginning of this, we wanted to add adult submissions because we want something that looks professional, can be reproduced easily, that can be printed in many different sizes. That's why I lean towards the 3-person, even though I liked the 4-person because I think more people represents more community. And I would imagine going forward, a lot of the times it'll be a very small representation, like at the bottom of a flyer. And I'm on other committees that do that. So it needs to be very simple so that it can be shrunk down to almost postage stamp sized if it's used at the bottom of a flyer. So it's not impossible, but very difficult to get usable submissions from the community. Even with the guidelines, they didn't always stick to them. So what I would suggest, which is not, I don't think beyond our ability to do, is we could, next year, we could submit to be the Village Vehicle Sticker again. And have, it would be not our logo on the sticker, but it would be the submissions of the community. Another thing we did, and I've talked about it before, is the community quilt we did, where each family submitted a square for a quilt that represented what they thought diversity in Glencoe looked like. And it's a lovely quilt, and it's lost somewhere in Village Hall. Because I like including the community in it, and we could still have a contest and we could still ask people to draw their things. I just think for our permanent logo, it might be too difficult to fit the constraints of what it takes to have something reproduced. But that's only my opinion.
No, it's super helpful. Thank you. I forgot that you had done that. So that's really important context. Raphael?
Sorry I'm late, everybody. As far as the logo is concerned, a 3-person one for reasons of size makes more sense. The only thing I thought of is if we have the 2 people at the end, instead of looking towards the middle person, and I don't know if perhaps having the silhouette have like an open mouth. I mean, I don't want people to think that we're cannibalists, but I mean, it would show that like there's a conversation, and then the bubbles above their head, whether that be hello in different languages or whatever. But I think that Vivek brings up an interesting idea of submitting different, or having a contest of kids submitting, or even adults submitting what they think it is. But I think what we needed is get something done as soon as possible, so that way we can present it, because we do have the 4th of July parade. There are some other things coming up that we're going to talk about that we want to be present on. So it's something to put something, in order to have something out there that would be sooner rather than later, just because one of the things that we have to do, and that's been brought up many times, is to get more exposure to people in Glencoe. So if it's, it's the logo with Glencoe colors. Another option off the top of my head, you can take the 3 people instead of them being side to side, turn them so that way they form like a triangle, like a circle, and then you can actually, you know what, never mind, because I'm going down a rabbit hole that could just end up so never mind, I didn't say anything. I just think that the 3-person and the color ones is straightforward. It's living and it's interchangeable. We can also change it in the future. So sorry for my sidetrack there.
I do want to be cognizant of time. Sammy, I know you have another commitment that you need to jump off for in a moment. Perhaps I've taken some good notes. Is there any final feedback on that?
Sorry.
Sorry, Margot, go ahead.
Sorry, the third bubble that said Glencoe, I think that's nice, but Glencoe isn't like a sentence. Would it be possible to say like glad you're here or come in or something? I know that I just said that it'll have to be reproduced very small, but I would love the other bubble to say something other than just Glencoe. Because like I said, it's not a sentence, but if it could say glad you're here or come on in or something, it would be nice.
Can I just take the conversation out one level from there? Because I think that it's important, again, Margot, I'm glad you said that, because it's important to emphasize that whatever is in the bubbles is interchangeable. So yes, I think is the answer. We can do whatever in the bubbles. I think in the interest of time, what we should do is determine if we want to try and work with this logo, or if we want to go back to the drawing board. If we want to, consequences of, working with the logo, it's not forever, it's not the Village of Glencoe logo. We can easily, depart from it in the future in a year or two when we've all tired of it, or we want to, have a different idea, we're moving in a different direction, fine. But we get it, we start to get something out into the community, or it's just, you just can't abide it, and it's not for you, and you don't think it's representative of what we're trying to do here, and we can't possibly work with what has been offered. And so we should just, accept that we're not going to have something in time for July and go in a different direction. So I think maybe just like a show of hands, one way or the other. Is that a reasonable request, Sharon or Raf? I'm looking to you.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. So if you would like to try and work with I don't know, does anyone have a better way to ask this question so that it's not leading? If your vote is to work with what we've started with now, if you could raise your hand, that would be great. It's fine as well. Okay. So then, Sharon, you've gotten a ton of feedback, and I think you have a good sense of where people's hard limits are around like musts versus wants. And let's continue this conversation over email and hopefully get something out in front of the community for the 4th of July with a little luck. And then, recognize that it's a living logo. There's things we can do moving forward, or if we hate it in 12 months, go back to the drawing board. So thank you. All
right, thank you. And Sammy, thank you very much for joining us. We know you've got to leave, so thank you for taking the time.
Thanks everyone, great feedback.
Okay.
Want to take it from here, Raf?
Yes, so that was are we talking about the farmer's market? Or were we on at okay, so.
We're starting with the farmer's market.
All right, so tomorrow is the first day of the farmer's market. We had a sign up sheet. That's another reason why we went the logo there. We will be there tomorrow. I think Amy, Bob, myself, and Hillary are the 4. I'll be leaving a little bit early because I still have Glencoe softball to intimidate my 3rd to 5th grade girls into winning because we have a tournament this weekend. The question I have for everybody is, we only signed up for next week, and we wanted to ask if should this be a weekly thing, a bi-weekly thing, a monthly thing, if there's any type of feedback from the group as to how they would perceive us and how we should attend. Obviously, while we're there, the point is to inform people what the council is about. We may have things to pass out, and also to discuss events that we have coming up. I don't know, just want as a whole, as a group, if everyone should think we should be there only once a month, twice a month, or any other ideas.
If I could tack on one thought to that, it's that our staff is working on rounding out the schedule for the farmers market to have the village's table staffed by different parts of the village throughout the duration of the market season. So there definitely will be multiple opportunities for this group. So please don't feel that you've got to be the ones to staff that table each and every week. But certainly there are opportunities for multiple farmers market appearances.
Okay.
Reverend Kirk?
I just have a clarifying question. So it sounds like the farmer's market happens every week. What is the duration? It begins, I know, tomorrow and lasts for how long?
It goes through, it's either late September or early October. So I'm checking the last date for that. Through September 29th. So we've got 4 solid months really of farmers markets. In the past, we've had the public safety department has been there. We've had some of our public works staff there, sometimes village board members, sometimes the sustainability task force. So this group certainly has had appearances at the farmers market. So there are lots of good opportunities.
And Sharon, how did it turn out that we were no longer on weekends and stuff, that now working folks can't participate, with a 1 to 5 kind of weekday? Is that just, yeah.
That was largely driven by vendor participation. Unfortunately, there is quite a bit of competition for weekend markets. We were able to, or the market manager that runs the Glencoe Farmers Market has been more successful with securing more vendors on a weekday afternoon market rather than like a Saturday morning market. Unfortunately, they're very popular, and the vendors have to make their commitments as to which markets they participate in.
So then do we need to address the issue of filling other weeks out, Raphael, or given that maybe they don't really want us at every one, so till we know?
Well, if we're gonna be rotating with other village groups, I think it'd be advantageous if when we're there, it's either the week before a meeting or a week before an event that we're holding. That way we can use the opportunity to advertise whatever, either the meeting itself, whether it's in person or if we have a speaker series, etc. I think that'd be a good opportunity to not only promote the organization, but promote whatever event we're sponsoring, holding, etc. And again, once the village has a better calendar as to when they want us there, then that would make sense versus us just being there every other week trying to draw a crowd in.
Certainly.
And are we gonna have the pledge there? Like there was some talk about, so that'll be up there.
Yeah.
And are there a couple of bullet points that kind of anybody at the counter should be kind of making that, so that we know what we're trying to promote?
As we get closer to the dates, we find out. I mean, the thing with tomorrow, because it came up, we don't have the logo, we don't have anything. We will be having. I'm sorry, so many emails. It's amazing how many emails are through my head. The picture kiosk, is that for tomorrow?
Yes.
Yes.
We've got
Thank you.
the
So
trolley
tomorrow at the
frames.
tomorrow at the table is promotion to thank you, Sharon. As
Yeah.
promotion, we'll be passing out the rubber bracelets, and those were then that Sharon has in her hands. So as you guys know, downtown Glencoe becomes a if you don't like kids, then avoid downtown Glencoe from 3:30 to 4 o'clock because the school comes out and all the kids are coming out like crazy. I don't know how many will go to the farmer's market to buy their after school snack, but we will have the opportunity to pass out those bracelets. We will take pictures in the frames that the village is providing to kick off the month of June for Pride Month. And that's the biggest thing about why we're there tomorrow is the fact that it is the beginning of Pride Month.
Right.
And to your point about the after school snack market, we are excited. We have the original rainbow cone truck that's going to be with us until 3:45 tomorrow, selling ice cream products. So that would be pretty exciting for anyone who likes having ice cream in the afternoon. I do. So.
Yeah, I think that's a big win. Let's hope that's a good first draw.
Mhm.
So
I
then
think
guess-
it
But
would- oh, sorry.
So moving forward,
No.
we'll just wait to hear from the village, Sharon, as far as availability as to what days were there. And then from there we can send out an email and another sign up.
Yeah, let me follow up on that. I'll talk with my colleagues about what other, what spaces we're trying to fill and what that cadence looks like, and then I can follow up with you all. Thank you very much for volunteering and being willing to do it. It's great to have your participation at the market.
Margot, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it would be ideal if some village, there was a village table at every farmer's market. And I know that might be hard to fill, but that way, as people get used to going to the market, they will learn to go, oh, let's see what the village is doing this week. Let's see what's going on there and each, it could be sustainability, it could be inclusion, it could be public safety, and that will get hopefully people used to stopping by our village. And that I think promotes inclusion, because one of the things that we've talked a lot about in this group for years is letting people know that the village does in fact want to hear what they have to say as residents and visitors to our village. And whoever is sitting at the table, we want people to feel welcomed to give us their feedback.
Mhm. Yep. And Margaret, or excuse me, Margot, I was working earlier with my colleague named Margaret, so that came out, I apologize. Your point is a good one. The village will have a table at the market each week. That'll be the table that rotates.
Will there be, oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
No,
Nancy.
go ahead, Nise.
Yeah, I still don't know how to raise my hand from my phone. I'm sorry. But is there some kind of box that's going to be there, like that maybe says like, how can we, do a better job, or suggestions, or I don't know what, I don't know how, of course you want to come from a positive perspective, but like, is there something like that for people to fill out if they want to, submit something around what they're thinking or feeling that they might not want to get into a conversation about, or they don't have the time for, or whatever?
That's a good suggestion. We've not typically had like a suggestion box per se. I can say from having worked at past farmers market events at the village's table, sometimes folks may not, to your point, want to have a lengthy conversation, but they may have an idea or thought that they share quickly. And sometimes we'll jot that down for follow-up or to get back in touch with someone. One of the things that we'll have for tomorrow's market, I didn't bring it into this conference room with me, but a board, a poster board that says, what does an inclusive community mean to you? And we'll have Sharpies where people can write on there their thoughts about an inclusive community. So that can be kind of interactive in that regard. It's not quite what you were suggesting, Anise, but I'll take that back to our team. It's a good idea to have some sort of question or idea box regardless of the nature of the village table that week.
Well, and again, I have a little bit of experience with standing on the street in Glencoe and asking people for things. I try and act like a carnival hawker almost when I'm doing this table, and Hillary's seen me do it, as people are even getting somewhat close, if they glance our way, excuse me, are you familiar with the blah, 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 like I go out and get the people to come to the table, and it's embarrassing at first, but it's well worth it, because that is when you get somebody to start talking, and when we've got something to give their kids, trust me, they will stay. At least for long enough to let us tell them what the commission is. We've got our mission statement written down somewhere near there, and hand them a pen and ask them to sign the pledge. And they'll stay long enough to do that. But it's work, but people they're pretty polite around here. They will stop and listen.
I think your point is well made, Margot. And it's the whole purpose of this is engagement. And so there might be some learning curve. We were out there last year, as Margot described. I don't think you were quite like a carnival hawker. I thought you were pretty effective in engaging people, but it's not easy. And a lot of folks are just kind of looking to get on with their, groceries and whatever. But it might be useful also. I really like the idea of Anice's sort of comments box. I think we need to think a little bit more about what we're asking, but it could be what is an inclusive Glencoe? It could just be a riff on the board that Sharon described for tomorrow, and we can have that probably well in hand by the next time we do the farmers market, meaning not tomorrow, but the time after that. And the other thing I seem to recall from last year is it might be good for us, again, with the logo, sorry to just push on this, if we had something to hand out small, a business card or something that had our logo and our email address on it, that's another means for people to communicate with us, because there's so much necessary redundancy in this space because people take in information in all different sorts of ways. And so, we want them to be able to email us. We want them to be able to engage with us at the farmers market. We want them to see us at the parade and at Park and Vernon on a Saturday morning. That's the name of the game. So.
Well, and almost every booth at the farmer's market hands me something, whether I'm buying something or not. They give me a card or a flyer or a coupon. And when I get home and I empty out my pockets, I throw some out and I save some. I still have some from last year. Maybe they'll still take them this year. But a card would be perfect, like a calling card.
To that end, we also have a second, I'm calling these activations, Pride activation scheduled for this month on Saturday, the 25th. That's the same day as the sidewalk sale. The Chamber of Commerce has graciously agreed to let us staff a table, I think in proximity to Park and Vernon, although I don't want to say that, like, I'm pretty sure that's where we'll be, but certainly right in town, not, for those of you who feel as though the farmers market's a little off the beaten path, we'll be right in town on a busy Saturday with our frames, very similar to the setup that we have tomorrow. The frames for the selfies and the rubber bracelets and pride flags, and getting the good word out about the work that we're trying to do in the village. So, and donuts. And we're going to provide donuts as well to draw people in. That's much better than a carnival hawker. We're like, free donuts. So you'll get another sign up, Genus, from us on that, but save the date, Saturday the 25th, probably 9 to noon, Raph.
Actually, it's scheduled for 9 to 5. So we're
9 to 5.
The sidewalk sale is from 9 to 5. It's up. You could be out there from 9 to 5, or you could be out there for a different window of time.
It's gonna be a lot of donuts. I mean,
Yeah, I was gonna say not enough donuts.
it's a lot of. We're gonna switch to fruit at 1 o'clock, so get there early for donuts. But again, just please sign up. I think it'll be us either as as carnival hawkers or as those hype men that used to be at the people that you want to come in at the carnival to get you into the show. when that comes up, please sign up. Now, 4th of July is next on the agenda. We will be participating in the parade, submitting our applications. So please get your walking shoes, your sunblock. I'm gonna need a hat for my thinning hair, but we're gonna walk in the parade, and then afterwards we're gonna have a table. And beforehand, we will have a table at the family activity center. There's gonna be a lot of things for kids. We will be there as well. Hence the importance of having a logo. And you'll be getting another email because you don't get enough about us, but it'll be for signing up. As far as passing out things for the 4th of July, we would like to pass out candy because, with all due respect, growing up, I remember going to 4th of July parades and fighting with the other kids over the blow pops in a civil manner. But it was still, for me, that was the best part about the 4th of July parade. It was the handouts. If we could perhaps have our logo on a card, pass that out as well. But I was just talking to Hillary about it earlier. Last thing we want is the streets to be filled with the council. I'm sorry, our business cards that have the logo on it, just because kids are mad at us because we didn't give them candy. So it ties into the actual parade is the 4th itself, which I believe a Monday. That also it could possibly interfere with some people's vacation plans. And more importantly, the discussion we need to have right now about whether we should move the meeting of July 6th. If a lot of members will be out of town on vacation, we may consider moving it a week after, which would be the 13th. Just so that way people are either, if they're traveling for the 4th of July or they get a really bad sunburn, they don't want to, I don't know if it'll be in person. They don't want to show up. It might be advantageous for us to move the meeting back a week. Just real quick, if you guys are in agreement or disagreement about passing out candy, I know one time we got reprimanded by a fellow baseball parent because we brought candy to the baseball field. But I guess candy wasn't a good idea in between a doubleheader, or what the committee's feelings are as far as passing out things on 4th of July, if people plan on being here for the 4th of July, and also if the meeting for July 6th, if that should be pushed back. Any thoughts?
I think candy is a traditional thing in these parades. Most of the villages have them and throwing them out. I have no issue, and it's kind of probably a good idea. And I don't feel strongly about moving it. I think there's challenges with both days, possibly for me just personally. So I think do whatever, the majority of people feel is right for dates.
Okay, then we will pass out candy. We'll get parents mad. And as of right now, we'll keep the meeting for July 6th. If it's more advantageous for us to move it a week back, we can address that later on in the month of June.
Not hearing too many strong objections to that July 6th date. So maybe we just keep it. I think it's a toss up. As soon as we started talking about moving the July meeting, I thought, well, but sometimes people are gone in August and then, so I think it's probably best to just keep it consistent unless anyone has any strong objections. Because the nice thing about July is all of this stuff, Save the Farmers Market, will be behind us, and we can begin to think a little bit more intentionally about where we want to go from here, including talking about our speaker series, which hopefully John Bjork will be back by then. So without further ado, then I think.
Is there any other business that a member of the forum would like to raise at this time? No?
Are there any other public comments, Sharon, since we've been meeting?
I do see one hand raised from an attendee. If you would like to take that comment.
Okay. Your 3 minutes starts now.
Okay. Miles, I give you permission to talk. You should be able to unmute.
Sure. Thank you. Hi, everybody. How are you all doing?
Good.
Good to see you. Just a question I would love to have answered. One, just as it relates to the farmers market, I'm curious if there'll be either references to other outside organizations or opportunities to get involved in any kind of programmatic or nonprofit volunteer work. If there's a way of getting involved and offering those same kinds of opportunities. I'm involved in initiatives that help to bring support to allow more inclusion and community to communities that are too often disenfranchised. So just wanted to ask that question, if there's room for involvement there, or how you'll be providing that to others who might be involved.
I'd be happy to follow up with you offline, and I could maybe just ask for some clarification of your question. I'd be happy to give you a call tomorrow or send you an email. We can find a time that's convenient to chat.
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Sure, my pleasure.
There's nothing, that's it that we have on the agenda. And then I guess, may I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
I second it.
May I please have a roll call vote?
Okay, one moment. Co-Chair Guzman,
Yes.
Co-Chair Scott,
Yes.
Member Flanagan,
Yes.
Member Kirk McKenzie,
Yes.
Member Molly. Is Vivek still here? He left. Okay. Member Moses,
Yes.
Member Mysel,
Yes.
Member Rubin,
Yes.
and Member Young.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Well, have a lovely evening, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See everybody tomorrow.